Okay, we're in this series about walking in rhythm with Jesus, and I know I'm going to get pushback on today a little, and that's okay. People say, well, why aren't you preaching the good news? And I think I am. I think I'm looking at an issue that I think Jesus would very much want us to address and be adamant about tackling and dealing with in a very intentional way in our lives, because I think what I'm looking at is insidious in being very detrimental to our relationship with Jesus. Okay? So bear with me. This is the third message in this series. There'll be this message, and actually next Sunday, my head is squared on right here, then I'm really trying to drive home this message about rooting hurry out of our life. And then after next Sunday, we'll just delve into Jesus' life and how he dealt with it. But I'm wanting to drive home something that I believe is very important and needs to be addressed, and I'm going to keep driving it home. It's one thing to say, don't rush around in your life. It's like, okay, whatever. No, I'm wanting to offer some evidence. I'm wanting to offer examples. I'm wanting to just drive it home to the point where you're just going to be sick and tired of hearing it, but to the point where hopefully you'll begin to maybe think, this is important. I need to address this in my life. Okay? So I'm asking for some patience, which is an important part of having a life that's striving to walk in rhythm with Jesus. So I ain't rushing, guess is what I'm saying. I'm trying to have you practice that ain't rushing kind of lifestyle. Okay? Is that well, I'm not going to ask if it's all right, because what are you going to say, yes or no? I mean, I'm still going to preach it. So, okay, in 1370, the first public clock was constructed and erected in Cologne, Germany. Okay? Before that, we were pretty well linked to the Earth's rotation and seasons when it came to time. We went to bed by the moon, we got up with the sun, right? Summer days were long and busy. Winter days were short and slow. There was a natural rhythm to life. The clock changed all of that. Gave us kind of an artificial time, if you will. And suddenly the world found itself living a 9-to-5 week, which kind of ruled the world throughout the year. We stopped listening to our bodies in some ways. We rose when our alarm clocks went off with their oppressive sirens saying, get up, get busy, whether you're rested or not. It's time to get to work. Be productive. And we became more efficient, machine-like, I dare say less human. The clock declared our independence from the sun. Proof over mastery over ourselves and our surroundings. Though we became enslaved, though, to a very real time machine. The clock. When the sun set our rhythms of work and rest, it was done under God's control. The clock has turned out, though, to be a more demanding master of us. Here's how you divide your day. It is time to work. It is time to rest. Think about this. Here are some questions. I don't have answers to these questions. I guess I'll get there. There we go. We often talk about being on time. But whose time are we being dictated by? God's or the world's? And what does it mean to be on time when it comes to God? What does it mean to be when it comes to God? What does it mean to be on time? To be timely in our living? What does that mean? We'll probably tackle that later in the series, but think about it right now. What does that mean? To live a timely life. 1879, Edison and the light bulb came around. We could easily then stay up past sunset with that. I had to read this like 2 or 3 times. But before Edison, the average American slept 11 hours a night. 11! And that was just average. In America today, the average is just a tick under 7 hours. And I'm sure some of you are thinking, I love 7 hours. A century ago, technology brought into our lives what could be said to be labor-saving devices, right? And these labor-saving devices definitely impacted our relationship with time. Used to be, way back when, you'd walk into a forest, cut down a tree, drag it back to your cabin, chop it up, and have firewood, and have warmth. Now we just go over to the thermostat, turn the dial, or push the arrow button, or we can even do it from our phone, and voila, we have heat. A bit quicker than going out into the woods, chopping down that tree and dragging it back and chopping it up. Used to be we walked everywhere. Now, of course, we have cars. We can rush around and get to places. Used to be, if we were going to have a meal, that had to be from scratch. Sometimes even, you had to go out and kill to get your food too, right? Now you can just go to takeout, go to Mickey D's. Mickey D's will even deliver it. Pretty awesome there. Used to be, we wrote letters by hand. Every so often I'll get 2 or 3 letters during the year. Someone actually took the time to write something in a letter, more than just a card, but an actual letter by hand. Now it's email or text, or we just don't do it at all. But in spite of our smartphones, our programmable coffee pots, dishwashers, laundry machines, toasters, microwaves, most of us feel, I think, that we have less time than more. What gives? What gives? All of these labor-saving devices to save us time. Where did all that time go? We spend it on other things. In the 1960s, futurists, that is people who look towards the future, could be anyone from science fiction writers to political theorists to anyone in between. People who were looking towards where the future was, where we were going into the future. There was the belief back in the 1960s that we would by now be working far fewer hours than we were back in the 60s. A Senate subcommittee in 1967 said that by 1984, the average American would be working 22 hours a week over just 27 weeks of the year. The fear was Americans would have too much leisure time. Today, the average American works 4 more weeks a year than he did back in 1967. In fact, last year, 768 million vacation days went unused. What are we doing to ourselves? Harvard Business Review study recently came out, said it used to be that leisure time was a symbol of wealth. People spent their time, their money on the golf course, sailing, right? Playing tennis, sipping white wine or that Pinot Noir for lunch. But now busyness is a sign of wealth. Look at the ads, look at the commercials. Used to be luxury items like Maserati and Rolex. You would have a very wealthy person with that product being sold, and they'd be sitting next to a pool in southern France, just lollygogging through life. Now we see wealthy people in these commercials in a high-rise in New York City working late into the night and then going to some trendy club at night drinking some sort of bourbon. Very trendy, but always busy. Being busy is so appealing. There's a dating site called Elite Singles, and it's really promoting itself as a dating site for the busy professional. Go be with that other busy professional. You two will have a great life together. Forget about that leisurely guy out there, who just sits around. Be with someone who's always busy. Over the past 50 to 60 years, we've seen something that has been affected deeply by this hurried pace of life. And I would dare say we've seen the death, if not at least the demise of the Sabbath in American life. Until the 60s, and in some places in the U.S., into the 90s, there was what was called the Blue Laws. Remember them? Businesses would be closed on Sunday. They'd be closed on the Sabbath. It was like a government-mandated speed limit on the pace of American life. San Francisco in the 50s, everything closed down during the week by 6 o'clock at night, and everything was closed on Sunday. Only the church was open. You couldn't go to brunch afterwards. No shopping on Sunday. It was a big deal when the 7-Eleven came into this nation. I remember the first 7-Eleven in the D.C. area, or near my neighborhood. It was the first store that was open 7 days a week and open till 11 o'clock at night. Oh my gosh. Sunday has evolved from a day of rest and worship to just another day to buy more stuff we don't need, run errands, eat out, and get a jump start on a work week and get some work done on Sunday. Our culture, it doesn't seem like it's slowed down enough to ask the question, what is this pace doing to our souls? Andrew Sullivan wrote in the New York Times Magazine an article entitled, "I Used to Be a Human Being." And this is what he wrote concerning the Sabbath. The Sabbath was a moment of calm to reflect on our lives under the light of eternity. For centuries, it defined public life, where once a week we would slow down and give pause and reflect. Now it has dissipated with scarcely a regret into the commercial cacophony we accept as the way of life. Sabbath once reflected a belief that a sustained spiritual life was infeasible without some refuge from noise and work to buffer us and remind us who we really are. Now that's all gone from our social fabric. A turning point for this nation and for the world, and there are a lot of them, obviously, but a huge turning point in all this, I think, was the year 2007, not that long ago. It was the year Steve Jobs introduced to the world the iPhone. It was the year that Facebook and Twitter went global, that Kindle and Android was released, that Airbnb began. If you don't understand what I just said, talk to your grandchild. 2007 was the first year of the cloud and the App Store, and Intel switched from silicon to metallic alloy, keeping alive what is referred to in the technology world as Moore's Law, okay? That the number of transistors you can fit on a chip doubles every 2 years, so that we can be more efficient and we can be more fast, we can be faster. Always, faster. 2007 could be argued to be the official start date of the digital age. In a few short years since then, the world has radically changed. Not too long ago, none of us had a smartphone or Wi-Fi access. Now we can't imagine living without it in our life. The internet has changed the world. Okay? Studies show that the internet, it's decreasing our IQs, or at the very least, our capacity to pay attention. You paying attention? You listening to me? Hear me? Yeah? Yeah, I mean, really, I'm up against a lot here because I know what you get to deal with in the world. You just have so much to do. Nicholas Carrs wrote a Pulitzer Prize nominated book entitled The Shallows, What the Internet is Doing to Our Brain. And it continues to be, the book The Shallows, continues to be the seminal work on the evolution, or I would say the de-evolution of our brains. And this is what he says about the internet. The net, or the internet, seems to be chipping away our capacity for concentration and contemplation. Online or not, my mind expects to be taking in information the way the net distributes it, swiftly moving streams of particles. Once I was a scuba diver in a sea of words. Now I zip along the surface like a guy on a jet ski. The smartphone has put the internet in our back right pocket, hasn't it? The world is back there in that little smartphone. Recent study, average iPhone users touch their phone, I'm talking about every little tap, touch their phones over 2,600 times a day. They are on the phone for an average of 2.5 hours a day. Those 2.5 hours do not include social media, checking email, looking up things on the internet. And for millennials, those ages 20 to 40 or so, you can double those numbers I just shared with you. And all of these studies I've been looking at so many of these studies. The people who are filling out these studies seem to have no idea how much time they're spending on the phone. They have no clue. There was a fascinating study of having your phone in the same room with you, even if the phone was turned off, still reduced your working memory and your problem-solving skills. Just having that phone there affected you. Translation here, our smartphones are making us dumber. Okay. Tristan Harris did a study out of Silicon Valley, and he was talking about slot machines, okay? And how slot machines bring in more money than the film industry and baseball combined each year. Like, whoa! I mean, that's just like a few quarters here and there, but those quarters add up, obviously, right? I mean, slot machines aren't even fun anymore. You can't even pull down the arm. You just got to push buttons. What's so fun about that? But it becomes addictive. You just keep putting, it's just, yeah. Well, our smartphones are the same ways. We think, well, it's just a quick text. It's a quick call, quick scroll here I'm going to do. Quick Instagram, a quick dinking around the internet for a moment. Oh my gosh. It adds up, apparently, to an extraordinary amount of time of our life on that device that's become part of our human appendage. Let's be real. Software design out there for the internet, for our computers, and for our phones, folks, it is designed to distract you and make you an addict, because that's where the money is. When you're on Facebook and someone friends you, oh my, or someone likes the photo you just posted, for some people, it's like a dopamine hit. You just got to have more. Yeah, I'm going to spend more time on it. Yeah, I'm friending them. Oh my gosh, they're friending me. Sprint, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, whatever. They battle for your attention. Why? Because they get your money. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? That's what they're saying to us. They want to be heard. They need you to be addicted to their product. So you can't live without it. And you know what? They're succeeding, aren't they? Oh my. Oh my. It was funny that, all the senators right now on Capitol Hill, and apparently they're going through, some of them really having a hard time sitting in there during the whole process that's been going on with the impeachment, and they're like, they need their cell phones. They can't have their cell phones, and so many of them are struggling without it. They just want to hold it and have it near them. Bless their hearts. There's a terrifying trend that's been going on in our nation. Our attention span has been reducing the past few years. In the year 2000, our attention span was 12 seconds. 12 seconds before we would get distracted by something. Now it is 8 seconds. Dear friends, a goldfish has an attention span of 9 seconds. We are losing to a goldfish. And what I love about goldfish, there have been studies out there that, always talk about they have a memory of 3 seconds. There's some studies that are showing they have a memory up to 5 months. So if you have a goldfish, change out the aquarium. They're bored, okay? Bless their hearts. But we're losing out to them. There are literally thousands of apps and devices out there that are engineered to steal your attention and your peace of mind. And your money, of course. Your phone doesn't work for you. It works for a multi-billion-dollar corporation or corporations in California, all right? You're not a customer, you're the product. And what you have to sell is your attention. Yes, along with your peace of mind. Continuous, partial attention is the new normal. It's just what it is. We've got to acknowledge that. And what I love is all the way back in 1936, Aldous Huxley wrote a book. Anyone know what that is? The book Brave New World. Back in 1936 was written, and that book speaks of our infinite appetite for distraction. A future not of dictators, but of distraction, where sex and entertainment and busyness tear down the very social fabric. Boy, has that come to fruition and has become reality. A world where the rich get richer off of our distraction, our addiction. Psychologists and mental health specialists have been using this term called hurry sickness, a behavior pattern characterized by continual rushing and anxiousness and feeling chronically short of time. It's a continual struggle to do more and more with less and less time, right? It's frustrating. Here are some symptoms of hurry sickness. Maybe you suffer from some of this. You're in the grocery store, right? And you look at the lines in the checkout counter, right? And you decide, you begin to count the number of people and see which one you can get through quicker. Or you look at the person at the cashier register and think, okay, who's more on the ball here, that person or that person? Which one should I go to? And then you go there and it doesn't work out, right? Of course, now you can just check yourself out to hurry things along, right? A lot of places have that now. Or you suffer from hurry sickness if you're driving down the road, and I do this all the time, and you look at the lanes in front of you that are at the stoplight, and you figure, okay, which lane am I going to get into? Which one has the fewer cars? Which one may have a truck that won't get going quickly? Which one has a semi? I'm not getting behind that one, right? Because they'll be slow to get going. I can zip along and get in front of them. Or you suffer from hurry sickness if you're multitasking to the point where you forget one of your tasks, okay? A recent study, and I can't help but believe it doesn't that it does not connect with what I'm talking about, because I believe it does, is that a recent study said that 39% of Americans feel more anxious than they did a year ago. We can't ignore this trend. What's happening? As I once heard from my great uncle, he said to me, Steve, just because everybody's doing it, it don't make it smart. Okay? Our spiritual lives are at risk. Thomas Merton, mystic, spiritualist, said this: the rush and pressure of modern life is a pervasive form of violence on our souls. As I tried to get across to you last week, hurry kills relationships, joy, gratitude. It misses the goodness of the moment. Hurry kills wisdom. Wisdom is born of quietude and silence and slowness. It has its own pace. Hurry kills spirituality, health, marriages, families, thoughtful work, creativity, generosity. It's a sociopathic predator that is loose in our society. I can't overstate that. Poet Mary Oliver, beautiful poet, she wrote this: attention is the beginning of devotion. Worship and joy start with our capacity to turn our mind's attention to God. And God is always with us in the now. And as apprentices of Jesus, this must be our main task, to attend to God. Giving into a hurried life just makes the devil's job that much easier, folks. It really does. Regardless of our income level, our scarcest, resource is time, is our attention. Jesus says this about all of this: our hearts will follow behind our treasures. Okay. It's one way of translating that scripture where often we read it: where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. And often we interpret our treasure as time and money. Well, it's going to cost me time and money. That's what it's all about. But arguably a more precious resource is our attention. Because without our attention, our spiritual lives are stillborn in the womb. Attention leads to awareness. Though God's always present, our lack of awareness of God is acute because of the pace of our life. So many live without a sense of God's presence. And people will say to me, and I get it when they say this: where is God? Where are you? Why are you absent? We are the ones who are absent, okay? Not God. We are sucked into our phones. We are sucked into our televisions. We are sucked into our to-do lists. We are oblivious to God, who is all around us, who is always with us, and is always within us. At a risk of sounding like an overzealous Luddite — you can look up Luddite if you don't know what a Luddite is. At the risk of sounding like an overzealous Luddite cult leader who has an axe to grind with spittle on his beard trying to get across a point, I fear for the future of the church. I do. There's more at stake here than our attention spans. What you give your attention to is the person you become. Now, this should bode well for apprentices of Jesus, who we should be giving the bulk of our attention to Jesus and to all that is good and true and beautiful. But this doesn't bode well for those of us who give our attention to the 24/7 news cycle of outrage and anxiety and emotionally charged drama, and everything. Every day is breaking news. Really? Some of the most sincere people I know tell me that when they get into God's presence, they're unable to pay attention. Dear friends, hurry isn't a disordered schedule as much as it is a disordered heart. Hurry is often a sign of something deeper. We're running from something. We're running from a traumatic childhood. We're running from family drama. We're running from deep insecurity. We're running from a lack of self-worth. Running from a fear of failure. Running from the inability to accept our own personal limitations. We're running from the boredom of a 9-to-5 job. We're running from a midlife crisis because we're running out of time. Or hurry is running to something. It's running to that next promotion. It's running to those next purchases. It's running to those next experiences. It's running to those stamps we want to get on our passport and experience the world. It's running to the next high. Searching for self-worth, love, and acceptance. It's easy to feel in our society that we're only as good as our next sales commission, or quarterly report, or Instagram post, or new toy that we get. So many of us are out of breath chasing the wind. Enough! Sometimes our hurry is less dramatic. We're just over busy, right? With modern world responsibilities. William Irvine wrote a book entitled A Guide to the Good Life. And this is what he writes. There's a danger that you'll mislive. Okay? That despite all your activity, all the pleasant diversions you might have enjoyed while alive, you'll end up living a bad life. A danger that when you're on your deathbed, you'll look back and realize you wasted your one chance at living. And instead of spending your life pursuing something genuinely valuable, you squandered it because you allowed yourself to be distracted by the various baubles life has to offer. Little trinkets that life offers us. The carrot that's hanging out there to grasp, right? You allow yourself to be distracted by the various baubles that life has to offer. Cue the haunting line of Jesus. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul? Have you lost your soul? Or maybe just even a part of it? You want to get it back? I want to help you. But you'll need to come back next week. Let's pray.